Hello, and welcome to Plain Talk. I'm your host, AJ Rivera, and today I'm joined by the Vice Chairman of College Republicans at Auburn University, Jordan Parker. Jordan, thank you for sitting down with me.
Thanks for having me, AJ. Great to be here.
So, Jordan, just to start off, election is in just about a week. How have you felt that Trump has done over the past 4 years?
He's been doing great. Lots of big accomplishments in the Trump administration. Most recently, we've seen the incredible peace deals struck over in the Middle East between Israel and states that, for decades haven't gotten along, haven't talked. We're now seeing the normalization of economic relations, the normalization, embassies are reopening, they're talking, commercial flights have started up. So that's something for me that's truly incredible and truly a testament to the hard work that the president and his advisors have put in over the past 4 years. And it's a story that often gets overshadowed in the media. International relations isn't, often a big topic talked about, but this is something that's truly historic. Normalization of relations over in the Middle East is, like I said, absolutely historic. Another thing that's been great is trade, the renegotiation of NAFTA and the implementation of the USMCA, the US-Mexico-Canada Trade Agreement. NAFTA was a disaster for this country, something that Joe Biden supported, and lots of people have been against. The Trump administration got rid of NAFTA, implemented the USMCA, which has been great, bringing jobs back to this country. The president has also fulfilled his campaign promise of building the wall. Over 400 miles of border wall have been now constructed or renovated, helping to secure our nation's border. And before the coronavirus, the economy was absolutely on fire. We saw record low unemployment numbers for all groups, for minorities, women, men, African Americans, Asians, Latinos, you name it. The president has really championed the American worker, championed those blue-collar states, and the results speak for themselves.
So now let's focus in on the past month. We've seen 2 presidential debates and 1 vice presidential. Now this is down from the typical 3 presidential debates as President Trump did have coronavirus. How have you felt that Trump and Joe Biden have handled themselves in the 2 debates?
That's a great question. The first debate was obviously very interesting, very contentious. And I think a lot of people are trying to block that out of their minds. I don't think it was a great representation of either candidate or the dynamics that can happen, and it honestly was a poor reflection on the current discourse between Republicans and Democrats. So I'm going to focus more on the second debate, which just happened a couple days ago. That one I think was an outstanding performance for the president. He showed that he can be tempered, he can be moderated, he knows the facts, he knows what he's talking about, and he can go toe-to-toe with Joe Biden, which isn't hard to do. But when it comes to big issues like the economy, like oil, like fracking, which Joe Biden said he will ban, he will get rid of multiple times, even though he continues to deny it. The tapes show differently. So I think it was an outstanding performance by the president. His best debate, in my opinion, to date, between 2016 and now in 2020. Pivoting to the vice presidential debate, Vice President Pence did an incredible job. That's not surprising at all. He combated Kamala's smirkiness, her smugness, her elitism that really shone through with grace and with dignity and with poise, and I think he blew it out of the water at that debate as well.
So looking at the polls leading up to this election, a large majority of these polls have shown that Biden is leading. One example being the Morning Consult, where Biden is currently leading a 9-point favorite. He has 52%, and Trump has 43% based on their polling. What are your thoughts, comments, concerns about these polling numbers?
I don't put too much stock or too much weight in polling. We saw in 2016 the polls weren't really that accurate. I look at more state polls, swing state polls, county by county, in the states that really matter: Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin now, Iowa, Ohio. Those are the polls in the states that really will determine the outcome of the election. We know the results, what they're going to be in New York. We know what the results are going to be in California. We know what the results are going to be in Montana, South Dakota, Mississippi, Alabama. The states that are very blue or very red, we know those. So the national polling, you can't put too much weight in because it's just, too high of a view. So when you get down to the internal polling numbers, county by county, especially in states like Pennsylvania, the president is polling well internally among blue-collar voters. When you go on record like Joe Biden has and said you're going to ban oil, you're going to ban fracking, you're going to get rid of manufacturing jobs, to the blue-collar workers of Pennsylvania, that message is, really a thorn in the side for them. And so I think that's, where President Trump is really going to shine. I also look a lot at the voter registration numbers and the early voting numbers. And the GOP has done an absolutely fantastic job of registering new voters in this cycle. They have far and away surpassed the Democrats. They've far and away surpassed expectations. And when you look at it, they are mobilizing people. Their ground game is unprecedented, and it's really unrivaled. When you see the sheer amount of boots on the ground in these swing states, and the amount of people they're registering to vote, getting out to vote, early ballots. I believe I saw last week that more Republicans had early voted in Michigan than Democrats, which I believe is the first time it's happened ever. And so I think we're going to see, a similar turnout to what we did in 2016, where the president has a lot of upsets, per se, against these polling numbers that show Joe Biden winning by large margins in these key states. And I think the president's going to surprise everyone yet again.
So I know you talked about you like to look at the polling numbers in swing states, seeing which way they're going to go. Can you tell us which states that you believe are must-win states for President Trump?
Yeah, so a lot of the Rust Belt states he won in 2016, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and then of course Florida. Florida is always a huge one. I'm really interested to see the results there. Early voting numbers are huge. Lines are long. People are excited. Early mail-in voting numbers are large as well. So Florida is a must-win. Pennsylvania is a must-win. Michigan, Wisconsin. Minnesota is going to be tight. I believe the president can pull off Minnesota, even if it's by a small margin. And then, of course, North Carolina, Ohio. Those are in the mix, though, there as well. The president doesn't have to win all of those states, but he does have to win, a decent chunk of them to ensure that he keeps the White House for 4 more years.
So we talk about, with the presidential debate, obviously the two main contenders are President Donald Trump and former Vice President Joe Biden. However, there are others that are running under different third-party names, Joe Jorgensen and Kanye West, to name a few. How do you feel that third-party candidates are going to affect the election, if at all?
I don't believe they really play a big factor, to be honest with you. A couple percent here, a couple percent there. Yes, it could possibly swing it in one way or another in some of those swing states that I talked about, but I don't think it's necessarily going to hurt President Trump. I don't think there's going to be enough libertarian votes for Joe Jorgensen that pull away from the president or pull away from Joe Biden to swing it one way or the other. And Kanye West, I don't like to write off candidates, but if we're being honest, he's not a serious contender.
So now switching over from the presidential election to the senatorial. Here in Alabama, Senator Doug Jones is running against former Auburn head coach Tommy Tuberville. Now, Senator Jones has been senator for the past 2 years, winning a special election against Roy Moore in 2018. How have you felt that Senator Jones has done over the past 2 years?
He doesn't represent Alabama. He doesn't represent the constituents. He's not voting how he said he would. He said he'd be bipartisan, working across the aisle, supporting the beliefs and the values that the majority of Alabama holds. And he hasn't done that. If you look at his voting record, it's very liberal. The majority of his donations are coming from out of state. Places like California are funding him, not the citizens of Alabama. So it's clear the results are going to be overwhelming, loud come November 3rd, that Tommy Tuberville is the person that Alabamians want representing them in the Senate, and Doug Jones just doesn't uphold the values that people across the state hold near and dear to their hearts. So it's not going to be a close race. It's going to be a blowout. The coach is probably going to win by 15, 20 points, and we'll send one and done Doug backpacking.
Now, a large concern of Tommy Tuberville is his lack of political experience. What are your thoughts on that?
Same thing they said in 2016. President Trump had no political experience whatsoever. I don't think political experience should be a prerequisite for getting into politics. If anything, less political experience is better. We see career politicians. For example, Joe Biden has been in politics for 47 years. The president's done more in 47 months than the vice president has in 47 years. So I think we need to get away from this career politician mentality. They get there in D.C., they get comfortable, they collect their 6-figure salaries each and every year, and don't do much for their constituents. I think it really is going to be political outsiders who start to shift the dynamic of this country, shift the dynamic of where our politics go, and ultimately the conversation that surrounds that. So I think soon-to-be Senator-elect Tommy Tuberville is going to be a great addition to the U.S. Senate, and I'm excited to have him representing Alabama.
Now you've talked about it through this interview. Just want to reaffirm, what is your predictions for election night? Do you think it's going to be a close race, or do you think one candidate is going to blow out the other?
That's a great question. I've been debating that for the past few weeks, actually. A few weeks ago, I was starting to get a little bit nervous, especially after that first debate. But since then, and especially since the second debate the president had, I've grown increasingly confident of the president's chances. I mean, you see him drawing tens of thousands of people, last-minute rallies. I mean, the rally that's happening right now in Pennsylvania was only announced less than 48 hours ago, and it is absolutely packed. You see Joe Biden, barely being able to draw a crowd. President Obama spoke on behalf of Joe Biden just a few days ago, and more Trump supporters showed up to that rally than Biden supporters did. So the enthusiasm speaks for itself. You see people out in droves, red states, blue states, you name it. I mean, we're seeing massive Trump rallies of supporters in Oregon, a state you'd never imagine seeing large groups of Trump supporters. You're seeing that. You're seeing it in Beverly Hills. There was a massive walk-away rally in Beverly Hills, California, just a few weeks ago. So the enthusiasm speaks for itself. The president's holding 3, 4, soon to be 5 and 6 rallies each and every day. Meanwhile, you have the former vice president calling lids for 3, 4, 5 days at a time, sitting in his basement, sitting in his home. And my question is, if you can't show up for your supporters, for those who want to see you and hear your message, how can you be expected to show up for the country when it matters most? I mean, I saw something yesterday. Ice Cube, oddly enough, wanted to talk to both candidates about their plan for Black America, for Black Americans, how they would uplift the African American community, support job growth, do criminal justice reform. So he reached out to both campaigns. The Biden campaign responded, said, "We'll wait till after the election, not a big deal." And the Trump campaign, or not the Trump campaign, but the White House, the administration rather, senior advisor to the president, Jared Kushner, took a 3-hour meeting with him. They talked about ideas, they bolstered up a plan, and then the president announced his Platinum Plan, which is a plan to uplift all African Americans across the nation with jobs, with criminal justice reform, with economics, housing development. And so the president and his campaign is actually listening. They're actually taking the time to see what all communities have to say, whereas the Biden campaign kind of pushing them to the side and saying, you know what, we'll wait till after the election to talk to you. It shows where the priorities lie, and it really shows who's willing to listen and who just wants to continue building the swamp in D.C.
Well, Jordan, I thank you for sitting down with me, but that is all the time that we have today for Plain Talk.
Thanks so much, AJ.
For everyone sitting at home, be sure to tune into our election show on November 3rd. We will be going live at 6 p.m. and we'll be covering both the Senate elections and the presidential elections. You can visit our website at eagleeyeauburn.com or find us on social media at Eagle Eye TV. I'm AJ Rivera and War Eagle.